If it were not for guests, all houses would be graves. I just opened that up in the book Sand and Foam by Khalil Gibran. I've read a lot of Khalil Gibran on the show, as you may well be aware. No, I was thinking about that and what I was going to call this show. And I think this episode will be called Houses and Graves. So today, had a pretty fun day training martial art at my gym, and had 7 people on the mat, including me. Yesterday had 4 people, and they range from 7 years old to 40. And so it was like 7, 12, 14, 15, 25, and then a few in their 30s and about 40, and I'm 40. And I don't present myself as, like this great martial art teacher. I've been doing this stuff for a long time. I think I have a pretty good method. Otherwise, I wouldn't bother teaching it to people. But I never present myself as like the only person people need to learn from. I don't charge any money for it, and it's just this invitation only class. So I'm not advertising it. I'm not charging money. It's more like I became my favorite teacher, and I want training partners. So somebody's new or 7 years old, I'm becoming better and better teacher through teaching. I'm becoming a better martial artist through teaching, and I still have people to learn from also. So when somebody like me is training with somebody who's 7, and it's mostly sparring. There's no like single person kata or anything. It's the whole time you're working with someone, and it's ranges from strikes, throws, and then ground fighting, and we try to take in everything. Like, there's no rules. I mean, there's like some politeness rules where you don't want to hurt somebody, but there's no holds barred. And it's a really cool bunch of people that comes to train. A lot of them have significant experience outside of training with me. So it's really cool. And so would a 7-year-old. Why would I bother training a 7-year-old? And if I was saying I want to train people to be like good training partners for me, so it's going to be quite a while before he's an actual threat to like beating me. Well, when you're working with kids, working with women, there's plenty of women that can beat guys, but when you're working with people who you can easily beat, you develop a sensitivity to, you can learn to feel, and even one of the students, a 15-year-old, she actually brought her boyfriend today for the first time, and she had him in a choke and an armbar at the same time. And she said that she could feel that, and she just pointed into his elbow, like she could feel inside of his arm, like what that feels like, and that's one thing that I mean by a high level of sensitivity. So he wouldn't have to actually tap; she would know that that's as far as it should go by the way it feels, and that's by being able to, like what my jiu-jitsu teacher would say, like doing an x-ray with your mind. Okay, so you know what that feels like. I mean, it's happened to you, so you know what it feels like, but also when you're applying the technique to someone else, you know what that feels like. It's very interesting, and it takes quite some time to develop that. Okay, I don't think anybody on their first day really has that, or second day, or 10th day, 100th day. But it's something that increases over time. Okay. So even if you don't care about martial arts, what else am I talking about when I'm talking about developing this sensitivity over time? So if I'm working like with a 7-year-old, sparring with a 7-year-old, then maybe the next minute, we do like, a lot of times we're doing like 4-minute rounds, 5-minute rounds, 6-minute rounds. So I'm going up against a 7-year-old. Right after that, I might be going against a black belt 30-year-old. So that's a whole different thing. Well, and it's not. It's really interesting what happens. And you develop a respect for your training partners, whether they're at a student stage and whatever boundary there is between the student and a training partner. There's a level of like respect, camaraderie that doesn't really happen if you're not doing something with such a risk together. So although we try to be safe, I don't invite anybody that I think would hurt someone on purpose. There's no way. No way I'm going to invite somebody just because they're really good at martial arts, but maybe they're not very nice. No way I'm going to have them come in and then spar with a 7-year-old or a 15-year-old girl. No. I'll only bring in people who I trust with a 7-year-old and a 15-year-old and me. And you develop a sensitivity like my jiu-jitsu would talk about, like we were like doing this throw and into a choke, like really like pretty brutal stuff, but he would talk about how we have to take care of each other like babies. Okay. Now, of course, you don't throw the baby on the ground and choke the baby, but you have to like really protect your training partners. And so there's a trust that when you tap, they will let go right then. And that's a really important point, and it's not super uncommon in jiu-jitsu classes or whatever. You see like in like UFC, or you see like some people will tap and the guy with the hold will hold on too long, maybe break the leg, maybe they get choked unconscious and he doesn't want to let go. There could be reasons for that in the sport setting. Well, one, maybe he's not a real nice guy. Maybe he wants to hurt people, and maybe he's like so caught up in the moment. And also, you're in that situation, you should wait until the referee stops the fight. But anyways, without getting too much into that, like you develop this trust, and so when you want to, when you pick a partner, you're picking someone that you trust to stop when you tap. When you've had enough, you tap, and then they'll quit. And I just re-listened to this show of mine that I did. It was called Settled Dust, and sometimes I re-listen to old shows because I want to get better at what I'm doing, and also kind of like see where I was at the time. And I didn't realize it at the time, but I told a story very similar where I was teaching class at White Pine for when the Boy Scouts Boy Scouts were coming, and it was like a rough housing guild. Like there was a couple wrestling games. One of them was like a sumo wrestling game, and then with just a little bit of guidance for me, the youngest, smallest by quite a bit, kid was winning most of the time, and everybody recognized him as the best, even though he was like 7 or 8, and the other ones were more like 12. But as I was watching them, the kids pick partners, and sometimes they wanted to say no, and I was like, no, you can't say no when someone wants to fight you. And of course, this is all in good fun. This is not like some like high pressure environment where I'm being harsh on any of the kids. This is a fun thing. I want them laughing and having fun, really trying, really putting effort out there, but having fun with their friends and meeting new friends and being able to go against somebody in a martial art, even though no punching, kicking, eye gouging, that kind of stuff. It's a couple simple wrestling rules. You learn how to play, and you learn how to win and lose, and when you choose somebody, you're choosing someone to contend with, and that was a word that I was focusing on in the show Settled Dust. And so whether you're picking a martial art partner, you're picking a husband, a wife, a friend, when you get to the point of the fight where you've had enough, you should be able to tap and the other person stops. Okay, so a husband and wife, I'm not talking about an actual physical encounter. I'm talking about an argument or some point of contention where you're going back and forth, and then to recognize when someone else, your partner, has had enough. And you should be able to develop that sensitivity, like I was talking about, where the 15-year-old girl said she could feel the inside of her boyfriend's elbow. And so she knew what that was like. So he didn't even have to tap. She just knew to stop there. Okay, so you develop that kind of sensitivity in these other kind of relationships as well, where maybe you know how to not go too far. And then if it does go so far that the person has to tap out, you'll do it. And that's how you can pick your partner. All right, making sense? You following me? This is really interesting series of events, and so I do a bit of online dating. I don't actually end up meeting very many women, and I don't spend a lot of time searching, but occasionally I'll match up with one and meet, and it hasn't worked out yet. I did meet one woman on online dating, and we were together for about a year, but that was some time ago. And I met one of my friends online dating. We kind of dated for a little bit, and then just better off as friends, and we're still friends. And so, but see, what I'm finding is, like, I was supposed to meet someone, and it turned out she was in this relationship. Well, she was married to this guy, and she said it was abusive, and we didn't meet yet. So this is in text, and like, okay, you mean physically? And she said yes, and I said, and it was happening from the beginning to some degree, right? And she said yes, and then I said, well, and then some major event happened that made you end it then, right? She said, yeah. It's like, gee, should I be making money as a psychic here? Well, I'm not saying this to her in the text. I was like, okay, how did I know that? That story is so common. It's crazy. It's crazy how common that story is. And the other day, so with her, we were supposed to meet, and then she had too much going on. She had to cancel, and then she couldn't. So we may reschedule or whatever. But I was supposed to meet someone else, and my schedule is super busy, and I can make time for somebody, but she was like, well, what are you doing tomorrow? And that would have been Christmas Day. And I'm thinking, it'd be kind of weird to meet for the first time on Christmas Day. But then I'm thinking, well, it's not really that big of a deal. And so we ended up meeting, and let's see how I can put this here. She looked nothing like her pictures, and I think I'll leave it at that. But so, like, right away it was a no for me. But it's like, okay, let's see where this goes. So we have a cup of tea, and we're talking, and for me it wasn't getting any closer to a yes, but here we are, we're having a cup of tea, no big deal. Turns out she just recently got out of an abusive marriage, and I'm like, so I'm talking about two different ones here. Okay, so what are the odds of that? Well, it turns out the odds are actually pretty good for it to be that bad. And so after we met, we just met for like 45 minutes or so, and then went on our way. And she sends me a message a little bit later, and she said that she had a really great time. She hoped I wanted a second date, because she definitely did. And I was like, well, I don't, but what do I say? So I didn't want to be mean. I didn't want to. I want to be like really careful how I worded my response, because she seemed very emotional. She'd been through a lot, and something. Okay, I don't want to make this any worse, but she was like, for such a, I don't know. So I was like, I think I'm just going to carry on by myself for a while and focus on my business. And her response was, good for you. I'm like, okay, cool. That was smooth enough. And then a little while later, she sends me another message. And it's like, I just don't get it. And she kind of goes on and on. She's like, if you were just not interested, you didn't think it was a match, you could just say it. I can take the truth. And then she's kind of like just kept going. And so I sent her a message back, and I was like, okay, it just wasn't a match for me. I'm sure there's a lot of guys that would be going crazy for you. And, I kind of left it at that. I'm trying to be really nice, because her emotion just seems to be toward the extreme. And I knew it just didn't have to do with me. It had to do with where she was coming from also. So she sends me another message, and it just like goes on. She's like, she was listening to my podcast, and she's like, you're talking in your podcast about giving second chances, and like it just keeps going. I was like, it's just not a match for me. I'm sorry. I don't want to hurt your feelings. But I don't want to keep engaging. And, she ended up, then I see that like she blocked me. I'm like, okay, maybe that's cool. Maybe that's a good sign. That, because I said something like, it would be best if you just like see what's next on your path and not dwell on this. I was like, we just met for 45 minutes. And so she blocked me. I'm thinking, okay, cool. She just, boom, that's gone. That's in the past, moving along. Then I saw the next day she unblocked me. And I haven't heard from her since, and I'm glad for that. Wish her the best. And I didn't respond. I didn't say anything else after that. But I just think, so there's a whole lot in what I was just saying there, right? So I said she looked nothing like her pictures, right? Okay. Well, I'm not trying to like sound mean or anything like that, and it's not like I expect a girl that I like to be like 8% body fat, CrossFit athlete, fitness model, all this kind of stuff. I don't need that, but I want someone that's taking care of themselves, because that says a lot. Because that's like my main thing is I try to really take care of myself. I try to take care of other people. I try to teach people how to take care of themselves, how to protect other people. That's what this martial arts thing is all about. That's what this life that I'm living is all about. I learn, I teach, I want to share. I'm not charging any money for martial art. I'm also not presenting myself as, the greatest teacher ever, and they don't need to learn from anybody else. I encourage them, yes, go do something else. Yes, you're on the wrestling team. Awesome. Keep that up. That's great. Keep going. And so if you have somebody that's, and you can say like a lot of it isn't her fault. It wasn't her fault that she was getting beat up by her husband, or that mentally and physically is scarring. You think you're trapped, and so if I can try to like explain here, to like you get on these online dating apps and sites there, and you see all these with the Snapchat filters. I'm not on Snapchat, but I think that's what they are. Some kind of filters where they have like dog's ears and dog's noses and rabbit ears and dog tongues, and they look like mice, and they look like deer, and they look like, it's like, what the hell am I looking at here? Why are they doing that? And I'm not saying that it's not okay to like make some silly picture, but this is your profile picture? And every single picture on your profile has some kind of animal filter? How am I supposed to recognize you if we meet? Or even if it's not some animal filter, it's some like, and I don't do it, but even like on this, I use Zoom meeting. I know most people are just listening to the show, but the show is on YouTube also, Path Notes podcast. Google is punishing me for changing the name of my show not too long ago, but you should be able to find it. But so there on Zoom, there's a box I can check, and I don't check it, that says touch up appearance. I'm like, what does that do? I've never even clicked the thing to see what I would look like if my appearance was touched up. But this is me. I could make the lighting, but it's at night. I'm using like one small light. It's usually kind of like pixelated a little bit. If I record it in the daylight, it looks better. There's another lamp right here that I could turn on that would make it look better, but I don't, because I don't want a bright light shining in my face. But so many people want those filters on there. Like, why? Think about it. Why? Think about that. Why would you put some kind of filter on your profile picture for a dating site? Do you think you're more likely to attract the right person or the wrong person with that filter? I would say, just like what happened, it's happened to me a couple times now. I went out with someone else, same thing, completely unrecognizable from the picture, and met, and then right away it's a no. So you're looking at the pictures like, okay, because you think you can tell something by the picture, right? That's why there's the pictures. It's not just like words. Okay. And physical attraction is important. I think it's different. I think for men and women, that of course it's not the whole thing. It's not the only thing that's important, but it's a start. And if you start with the dishonesty of a fake profile picture, then what are we doing here? But it's not even more important than like wasting my time and theirs by putting up a touched up profile picture, or one from 10 years ago, or before they gained another 50 pounds, 80 pounds, whatever it was. It's like, wait, that's okay, yeah, you're kind of the same person, but it's a different thing here. And like I said, I don't need somebody to be, just shredded fitness model. That's not what I'm trying to say. It's like false advertising. When there's false advertising, you're going to disappoint, and you're not going to attract the right people. Whereas if you just put up the picture that doesn't have the touched up appearance, and yeah, sure, if you're like goofing around with your friends and your kids and you want to have the dog faces and the bunny ears, whatever, fine. There's nothing wrong with having fun with it. But on a dating app, what are you doing? And it's like this. So you think you're not that real your real face isn't good enough to attract what you want. That's pretty sad. And ultimately, I don't think it's true. It could be true in some cases, but ultimately because you want the person that accepts you for who you are. But it gets complicated. Like for men, we're less likely to care how much money the woman makes. We're more visual. For women, of course, they're going to want somebody that they're attracted to, but having that financial security, it's just in our DNA. There's every situation, but those are the basic things, right? And so what happens is you have the guy, and I don't see the guys in the dating apps, but I'll see like what the girls say, and they'll say stuff like they're not impressed with the cars that you drive, because I guess there's like the guy standing by his boat or his fancy car or something trying to attract, but it may not even be his or whatever. So he's trying to make it look like he's more well off than what he really is. And it's common, I guess, for the guy to be holding up a fish. And so that's like signaling, hey, I can provide food for our family. I know how to do this. Like I'm a good catch. Boom, boom. Because I can provide food. So it's like this stuff is just in our DNA. This is like, it's really deep stuff. And so when I see these women with some of them literally if there's 5 pictures, every single one of them, they look like a dog or a deer or a mouse it's like, I have no idea what you even look like. If you just there's nothing wrong with putting your best self out there. This is my ideal self. This is what I'm trying to be all about. But when I guess there's a line, because when that meeting happens and you're not what you said, then right away it's like you can't be trusted. But it's just sad that like they think that they're not pretty enough, or they have to use a picture from a long time ago with a long time ago body, which is their ideal self. So maybe they're like trying to eat healthy again. They're trying to get it back into fitness again. They're trying to reclaim themselves after being in abusive relationships. And the story is super common. And so they look in the mirror. They don't like that. They like that old picture 50 pounds ago, 10 wrinkles ago, a million tears ago, whatever it is. So they'll put that one up there. Here, this is my ideal self, what I used to be. And that's not, you're not going to be back what you used to be. You're still the same, and you're changing, and your future self will be potentially even better. And better may or may not have anything to do with what the shape of your body is. Because we're looking for someone that, we can accept how they are. Like some will say, like we're like men choose a woman hoping that they don't change, and women will choose a man hoping that they do. And just being able to accept someone for who they are and be encouraging for what they're trying to be is without being harsh. It's tricky. It's hard to find. The vast majority of relationships don't work out. Hell, even by the time people get married, I think it's less than half of them work out. And so how many before that marriage didn't work out? All of them. None of them did. Or you could say they worked out for a season. They worked out for a year. They worked out for 2 years. They were pretty good for 6 months, and then, whatever. So why is that? And a lot of times there's just a pattern, so we'll kind of like out of the pan and into the fire. Like, okay, I'm not dealing with that anymore. I'm going to choose this person. And then we have a way of repeating history, don't we? So I've been lucky enough. I've had like good relationships, and although at the time I was like wishing some worked out, like now I don't look back and like wish they did. Like they worked out for that amount of time, and now here I am, I think at the best I've ever been, ready for something else. And without like settling. One of the things the one that I met not too long ago, and so it's a contrast of like one I met before. It was a few months ago or so. We met for dinner. It was a no. Another one that was nothing like her profile pictures, and we talked for a couple hours, and then at dinner, and then never talked again. It was a definite no for me. I don't know what she thought, but we had a decent enough conversation, but it was a no for me. We never talked again. But like the one that I was talking about, who I met on Christmas, weirdly or not weirdly or whatever, like in one of the messages, she's like saying, it was her first message back to me. It said, like next time she just wanted to have a good cuddle and skip the chit chat and stuff. I'm like, can you just, maybe I can see how a lot of guys be like, yes, finally, that's easy. And for me, it was like, come on. Is that, I don't know. It was just like said, like she's like craving this connection that, I don't know. It's crazy, isn't it? How for one person they're just like yes, can't wait to see you again, and the other person's like, nah, don't ever want to see you again. Nope, don't even want to be friends. Nope, let's just move on. It's crazy how that works, isn't it? But we develop this, it's like kind of getting back to how I started with, if it were not for guests, all houses would be graves. So I imagine like these people are alone, and they want the company, and they're trying to present themselves in such a way to just have a chance to not be lonely for a while. We just like keep on the path. You keep like doing your thing, working on yourself, helping other people where you can. You'll just be, like, this is how I was thinking of doing with the show before I got into all of this stuff. But I was just kind of like thinking of how I didn't quite know how to articulate it or put a title to it, but if just like staying on this single path I don't mean like single as in not having a companion, but this like single path of effort over time to put ourselves in a place that we want. So whether it's like with martial arts, and whether it's with friends, and being invited to things and inviting other people to things and having people show up to the things that we invite them to, and showing up to what we're invited to. Like, and we have like all this work to do. We're all so busy. But we need to keep on the path. We can't start going, into the darkness. We got to like keep on that path to the light. And everybody has that dark side. Everybody has that stuff that they don't like to look at. They don't want to feed. Because you've probably heard the story of the two wolves inside that are battling each other, and then your higher self and your lower self, like which one wins, and it's the one that you feed. And some say it's like an old Cherokee story. I don't know if it's really an old Cherokee story or not, but it's some old story. And we learn how to like make ourselves a magnet into what we want to attract, because we're both sides of that magnet right now. So we got to be able to turn that magnet the right direction. We have to show the right side to attract what we want, because the other side will repel. But yeah, it's just interesting what people will do, and the natural world is full of unique, wild ways to attract a mate. Like the birds of paradise doing their dance. If you've never seen that, look, it's like just amazing what they do. Or it's just amazing what us animals do to attract what we want. And it's amazing how much self-sabotage is right on our heels. So think about, like, what do you want? What are you doing every day to get what you want? To develop your higher self? What are you doing? Like with this podcast, I'm not trying to be like a spiritual leader or anything. I'm trying to give my own experience, help people where I can. And I see it seems like more and more people out there trying to be spiritual leaders, and maybe from my perspective, after studying spirituality, whatever that means, attaining our higher self, and studying this stuff since I was a little kid, really, of all different kinds, from India, Native American, or whatever. I'm seeing more and more people trying to be these spiritual teachers. And I look at it, and so overall, it's a good thing. They're trying to be their ideal self. They're trying to help people. There is often some vanity included in that, I would say, and myself included with that. There's you almost have to have a certain amount of ego and a certain amount of something like ego to present yourself as, yes, I'm a strength and conditioning instructor. I can help you. I am good enough to help people reach their goals. So there is a certain amount of, if it's not ego, like confidence or whatever. And these days it seems like it's and that for me it's earned over and developed over a long time, hundreds, thousands of hours of training. And then you become that way, and at first, like, maybe you're more faking it, you're not quite ready, and then you are ready, but you still are going to have that. I hope people keep that voice in their head that they're maybe like question whether if they're still a faker. So the solution to that isn't to just quit and give up. The solution is to keep trying, to keep pushing yourself. Keep learning. Oh, this guy is really cool. This guy's really good at this particular martial arts. He's way better than me. I'm going to study with him for a while. I'm going to invite him to train. And, sometimes, he takes over as teacher or something like that. Or whatever it is, you're always trying to develop yourself. And you become more and more that ideal self. And it seems like with the Instagram world and it's like it's so easy to be a faker. It's so easy to buy 50,000 followers that aren't real. But people do that. They buy followers, and it's not real. It's so weird. And they'll present themselves, whether it's like a fitness guru, a spiritual guru, some kind of guru, a business guru, and it's just, I like to think for most of them, it is simply trying to be their best self, trying to be their ideal self. And then I think there's also con artists out there. Have you seen the I don't know if you call it a documentary. It's kind of a documentary, but more than a documentary, called Kumare, Kumare. It's a show, documentary, movie kind of thing about this guy. He's Indian. Like, his ancestry is from India, but he was born in New Jersey. And so he wore Western clothes. He had short hair, shaved clean. And he had this idea to become a guru. And it was all, kind of like this spoof kind of thing at first. And he was like seeing how, and he went just like over the top, like making up meditations, making up yoga poses, making up stuff. He grew out his hair, he grew out his beard, faked an accent, because he had an American accent, but he faked an Indian accent, and then like went out west mostly, because he wanted to make sure people wouldn't recognize him from college or anything. And he became this character Kumare, who was this Indian guru, and he carried around a trident, like the Shivas. It was like just over the top. But people bought it. And so his class, and he wasn't charging money. Okay, that was part of the thing, how he could kind of do this documentary thing ethically as possible. So when he would have these workshops at these yoga studios, and he would not charge money because he didn't want to. That's just how he could do it ethically. But there were a lot of people coming to it, and you kind of get to know the people who are getting to know him, and they're trusting him with their personal issues, and they're going to him for help and guidance. And it starts out like he's lying to them about who he is. He's not Kumare. He's this college student from New Jersey. But it turns out, what he was telling these people, it was helping them. So even though he was faking the accent, he was wearing the clothes of a renunciate, which is like nothing, a cloth, just loincloth. But I don't want to spoil it too much for you. But there becomes a time when, if these people are going to him for help, and he gets to really care about these people, he gets to know them, and he's giving them advice that he really thinks is the best advice, and they're making changes in their life. And then so all of a sudden, so his name was Vikram, Vikram, Vikram Gandhi, I believe was his name. And no relation to any of the famous people, I don't. But there was a point where his, the college guy doing this kind of funny documentary, and this Kumare character started to kind of become the same guy. And it kind of came to be, and I think people can watch this and get different things out of it. They can see how it unfolds differently than me. But it was kind of like, okay, so Vikram his ideal self was this guru that can really help people change their lives for the better. And he was even telling them, he's the biggest faker that he knows. And they're just nodding, and they're eating it up like he's telling the truth, which he is telling the truth, but he's doing it in this costume, this filter, a real life Snapchat filter, covering up this college student from New Jersey with this filter of this Indian guru. And so towards the end of it, he talks about having the great unveiling his true self. And I don't want to spoil it for you, because you can, I think, read that much from the description. I elaborated a little bit, but the response of the students when he unveils his true self, when he shaves his face, shaves off the beard, and puts on his regular clothes, the response of okay, here's this guy that looked like an Indian guru. Anybody walking by, he must be some Indian guru. Super spiritual guy. Took that filter off and put on this other filter of Western pair of khakis and a button-up shirt, shaved hair, shaved beard, cut hair. So you're not going to look at him and think, oh, he must be some kind of guru. He must be very spiritual. You would only think that if you saw him in his other costume. So it's like, who's who? Which is which? Okay, yeah, he was faking an accent. He was putting on these clothes. And then he just put on other different clothes. And he had his normal accent, like that didn't take effort. Right? We have to be careful with our identity, don't we? It's so easy to get caught up in, like as a teenager, oh, he got in with the wrong crowd. What does that mean? Got in with the wrong crowd. One minute you're, doing just fine, and you get in with the wrong crowd. Does getting in the wrong crowd mean you start dressing differently? It can, can't it? Because a lot of times, like hippie friends will kind of dress one way. My wilderness friends will kind of dress a different way. My other businessy friends will dress that way. They wear these costumes. I dress how I dress, and so you get in with these different crowds, and people tend to like dress like the crowd that they're trying to be a part of. And for the most part, there's nothing wrong with that. But we have to be careful what we're asking for. Because if you're trying to attract the right person and you put on these fake masks, then when you meet, they know they can't trust you. I'm making sense. A lot of times when I'm doing this show, I kind of like, I don't know, when I have a guest, I'll usually write out a few things, several things, sometimes a lot of things to talk about. And a lot of times when I'm just doing these by myself, I don't. Like today I didn't. I found something I wanted to read. I'm going to read something else in a minute, I think. But partly I'm exploring my own mind, and I'm doing it out loud. It's not like I don't. It's not that I'm not writing everything out because I don't care and I don't want to do a good job, and I'm just doing a weekly show. It's part of what people have told me they liked about it is the organic nature of it, and some of the things that I've gotten good feedback on are things that were not really planned, things that I've talked about that are it's like stream of consciousness stuff. And you think you think you could stop wearing one of your masks? You think you'd have better results if you just quit putting up that facade? And if you're on a dating app, or it doesn't mean you have to take the most unflattering pictures of yourself, but I'd say post pictures of you enjoying yourself, okay, doing what you enjoy. A lot of the other pictures are the women are drinking alcohol. I don't even know what percentage it is, but it's a crazy, it's a high percentage. I don't drink, I don't smoke, but it's like this crazy high percentage of women's like they're drinking this giant margarita, or they're taking shots, or they're drinking beer, and they're drinking beer at a concert, or they're drinking beer at the bar with their friends, or they're drinking this big margarita at some restaurant. And what are you attracting? What are you trying to attract with that? What are you doing? Now, just because I don't drink, it doesn't mean that I'm against somebody else having a drink. But what kind of message are you sending? And a lot of the profiles will say something like, "Let's meet for a drink." Well, I know that's a super common thing. I'm sure I didn't just completely shock everyone with that revelation. But why meet up for a drink? Why meet up for an alcoholic drink? I like the idea of, hey, let's meet up for a coffee. Coffee takes a while to drink one. You're sitting there. It has like this effect. It's like you're being mindful because it's hot. So you have to be mindful of every sip. So you're like kind of like in the moment, and you're with somebody, and it's like this thing. It's amazing. But is it alcohol that will turn your magnet the right way? I don't think so. I think I don't know how long I've been going on here. I'm a big fan of Khalil Gibran. I read some of Khalil Gibran almost every show, I think. At least the ones I do by myself. Only those with secrets in their hearts could divine the secrets in our hearts. He who would share your pleasure but not your pain shall lose the key to one of the 7 gates of paradise. I'll leave it at that. Those were just random, but as random goes, all right? Well, I definitely went off on subjects I wasn't planning on. But that's kind of like part of the fun of exploring my own mind. And when I go back to listen to this show and see what I get from it also. It's nice to be with you on the path. See you next time.